And now we cross over to our Oh Soo-young for global insight and an in-depth look at important developments in world affairs.
Thank you very much, Morgan. It is indeed time for Global Insight, where we connect with experts from around the world to hear their views on issues making headlines. Last week, Facebook became Meta. Mark Zuckerberg, founder of the social media giant, announced the company's big move into the metaverse, declaring the virtual world will be the successor of the mobile internet. But as Facebook replaces its iconic thumbs-up logo with a blue infinity sign, can the company appeal to the younger generation and also overcome the string of scandals and regulatory issues that it's embroiled in? We discussed this today with Stephen Fenech, editor of Tech Guide, and we also have Sarah T. Roberts, associate professor and co-founder of UCLA's Center for Critical Internet Inquiry. Thank you both so much for joining us. And well, let's kick things off first with you, Stephen. Now, Mark Zuckerberg, he announced this whole new Meta space. So what really is it? What is he envisioning with Meta? What kind of services do you think Zuckerberg's company is going to provide?
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, it's a fairly large pivot for the company. Not only to have a name change, the parent company will have their name change. The social media platform will remain Facebook. But yeah, in terms of the metaverse and their vision of the future, it is a virtual world that they're looking at, both virtual reality, augmented reality, and a new way to connect with people, to connect with family, to work collaboratively. It is, in his description, it's the next level of the internet. We've had the normal pic sharing, video was very popular, and now he thinks this is kind of the next step for the internet to take, so we can interact virtually with our colleagues, with our friends, our family. Virtual reality gaming is already very popular. The Facebook already owns Oculus, which is a virtual reality company that creates headsets. So there was already interest for some years in this new form of interaction. So I think that it is something that it's not going to happen overnight. It is going to take some time. Some of the technology required hasn't even been invented yet, but it is a very bold vision of the future.
It is indeed very bold, very exciting to hear about. But Sarah, amid the series of scandals that are currently surrounding Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg's decision to change the parent company's name, it's also seen as a PR move and a bid to dodge some regulatory issues. How damaged would you say that the company is right now?
Well, it's hard to really get your head around the crisis that Facebook is in if you look at some common markers of the health of a firm. For example, Facebook's stock closed up 2% today, and it's not at its 52-week high, but it's certainly healthy in its trading capacity on the stock market. That having been said, Facebook is in the crosshairs of several difficult situations, the least of which has been the ongoing pressure from yet another whistleblower who has been revealing documents that suggest that not only may Facebook not be ready for what it's proposing in terms of the all-in nature of the metaverse, it can't get a handle on its problems today. So I think a cynic such as myself might note the timing of this unveiling of the new branding as being the thing that is taking headlines rather than the latest revelations from the Facebook whistleblowers. But the likelihood of Facebook's problems going away simply because of a rebranding, I think, is quite low, especially in the United States as we see the ascendance of new leadership in the Federal Trade Commission, who have been vocal about their desire to pursue social media as a sector and Facebook in particular.
So you're quite pessimistic then about this whole rebranding strategy. I mean, what do you think it's going to achieve, Sarah?
Well, as my colleague pointed out, Facebook has owned Oculus for some time, and they've been trying to figure out how to make a go of that. Certainly, in order to fully experience the metaverse, you need to be using virtual reality goggles, and what better choice to make than Facebook's own product line, Oculus. So I think they're making strategic decisions here to integrate the entirety of their product line. But there are some extant problems that remain to be solved here. There are problems with content moderation, certainly won't go away. their problems with the way that they are selectively governing around the world, and we learned recently have placed countries in different tiers in terms of how they deal with them. None of that is going to go away because of the metaverse. And just in a bigger picture, we've spent the last almost 2 years in a global pandemic when many workers have learned to function outside an office setting. How many of us really want to go back into a setting where we're in a faux office, except the surveillance is turned up to 11? I'm not sure how they're going to sell folks on that. I think they're going to be selling businesses on that who will then mandate participation to employees.
And on top of that, Stephen, Facebook has been going through something of a democratic crisis. The average age of Facebook users is estimated to be around 30 to 40 years of age, with a rapidly narrowing pool of users in their teens and 20s. Do you think this rebranding approach is going to help Facebook overcome this demographic dead end?
Absolutely. I think that is one of their goals with this change. You're right. Facebook has kind of become the not so cool platform that your parents use. The cool kids are on TikTok and Snapchat and Instagram. So it does need a little bit of reinvention, and maybe this will attract those savvy younger users who are always interested in the latest technology, which is also being tried and tested, by the way, by Apple. Apple is rumored to be releasing their own set of goggles as well to enable augmented reality and virtual reality. So it's going to be quite a rich playground if these other companies get involved, Facebook included. But absolutely, yeah, I think that Facebook is trying to package this as an attractive future, whereas personally I think it's a little sad if the future is people sitting in dark rooms wearing goggles rather than interacting physically. But Facebook's vision is for people to collaborate when normally they weren't able to, and also to socialize when they weren't able to, and the pandemic certainly demonstrated how we could do that. But here Facebook wants to do that in a richer and a more fun way of interacting.
So Stephen, would you say that this is a good business move on Facebook's part?
Well, I think it's a gamble, most definitely. I think it's something that they're going to have to invest heavily into. We're talking billions of dollars, where the infrastructure and, as I mentioned before, the technology that will support this hasn't even been thought of yet. It's very easy to come up with a plan, but very hard to execute to really make those visions real. So whether A, the technology exists, and B, whether people are going to be willingly moving into these virtual spaces is something we're yet to see. The internet really changes, the characteristics and the trends of the internet change so rapidly. It could very well be the most popular way to connect, or on the downside could be a way that people would avoid in the future.
And well, Sarah, as Stephen has mentioned, it's going to take billions of dollars of investment into Metaverse to really make it work for Facebook or Meta. And well, the company has actually dedicated around $10 billion to setting up this virtual world, and it's also planning to employ thousands of people in Europe. Would you call this a necessary or wise business move?
Well, as a Facebook skeptic, I question the wisdom of this move when so many other problems are unresolved with Facebook. And as my colleague said, we know that other companies are pushing strategies in a similar space, such as Apple. But there are going to be issues of market differentiation that come down to other issues beyond the technology. For example, Apple is coming out very strongly in the case of protecting user privacy. We know Facebook, unfortunately, has been not only lax in that arena, but it has business models predicated on extracting user activity and demographic information, which they then sell or profit from. So what are the protections for users that will be put in place in the metaverse? These things are undisclosed or unknown at this time. Certainly the European market is aggressive with its regulation. And so I anticipate that they will be preparing a strategy to respond to the very kinds of questions that I've raised, but that will come from those empowered in a much greater way than I am when asking those questions.
Right, so these regulatory, the societal concerns are now going to be very much part of the user experience, in your opinion, in pursuing these new futuristic strategies? And well, also, Stephen, for years, Mark Zuckerberg, he's been mentioning the importance of building Facebook's own platform. As Facebook and Instagram, they rely on platforms by Apple and Android. Now, if Zuckerberg wants to make a success out of the Meta business model, then is this something he's going to have to get a quick move on?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that anyone will tell you that the best ideas should have been started yesterday. And so I'd say their moves are definitely in place. But it's going to be a challenge because I think Facebook can't do this on their own. Sarah mentioned earlier about, and I mentioned about Apple being involved with their glasses, and then they're also wanting for there to be an environment where those products are going to be useful. So I think that Facebook on its own is going to struggle. I think they really need to create an environment for developers and for users that will be attractive, to make it so that it is a safe environment. Sarah also mentioned the whole problems of Facebook aren't going to go away just because you're wearing a pair of goggles. It will have to address those issues seriously as well, but also have the cooperation of other companies. Apple, as we've also mentioned, are all about privacy. Their app tracking technology now allows users to stop their data being tracked, and that's costing companies like Facebook billions of dollars right now. So I think that sort of cooperation, where they're all singing out of the same hymn book, that's going to be something they're going to have to seriously address if this is going to be any type of success.
So whether it's this futuristic vision or the user concerns surrounding it, it looks like the whole ecosystem is going to have to move here. And well, Stephen, is it going in one direction? Is metaverse the future of social media?
Well, I'd say that's very hard to predict right now. I think there are already very successful platforms we're seeing, like TikTok and Snapchat and Instagram seem to be enjoying great success. Whether people want to change that, whether they're willing to invest in the technology and even the products that are required to do this, and the outcome that they'll get from this, whether it will make them feel closer to their friends and family, make them work a little bit better and more collaboratively. I think that's going to be that will be known when we see the quality of the metaverse and how realistic and how well and how good the experience can be.
And Sarah, before we go, what are some deeper management issues that you hope to see Meta and other social media companies address really to clean up their image?
Well, my concern with products like the metaverse and other efforts to push the social activity on these platforms into private quarters is that the firms believe themselves to be able to get out of the business of content moderation, which is, of course, a great concern for them at any given time. I'm not sure that this is going to do all that. There are other considerations as well, infrastructural considerations, cost to users, the expectation that users be able to purchase these goggles, have access to bandwidth that will allow this kind of content streaming, computers that can process it, and so forth. I mean, there's no mistaking the reason for a company like NVIDIA to want to be involved in the metaverse, because this is all going to require churning graphics processing units and upgrading your computer. So there are a lot of issues here that we can presage, but there are many that will come to the fore as this product rolls out. I think it's worth remembering that metaverse was a term coined in a 1992 dystopian cyberpunk novel by Neil Stephenson, and it's funny that the folks in Silicon Valley can't get away from these terms that have already been coined, but that were coined as harbingers or as warnings to folks. So I got to tell you, after this conversation, I'm going to take a walk outside.
Well, it looks like we all need to have a deep think about the future of these social media companies, and so considering that, and also consider that it doesn't just take rebranding to change the deeper issues at hand. Well, that was Stephen and Fenech, editor of Tech Guide, and Sarah T. Roberts, associate professor and co-founder of UCLA Center for Critical Internet Inquiry. Thank you both so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.